Jack and the Beanstalk story.
Once upon a time, there was a small village at the bottom of a valley near a mountain. At the farthest point of the village, there was a small and dilapidated hut. And in the hut lived a widow with her only son. They were very poor. Their clothes were very old and their shoes were all torn. This mother and son had only one brown cow in the world. Jack woke up early every morning. He milked their cow and poured the milk into a big bottle. Then he took the bottle of milk running to the village shop and sold it. True, the milk was only worth a few pennies, but Jack would have been happy to have those pennies. Jack would give the coins to the farmer, and in return he would get some big potatoes and return home. Jack did this every day. Cow's milk was enough for Jack and his mother to survive. The following year, a very hard winter came. Winds were blowing strongly, and snow and rain had covered the whole village. It was so cold that no one had ever seen it before. This cold caused no grass or plant to grow from the ground until next spring. The cow, which had no food to eat without grass, became weak and did not give milk anymore. Jack shouted, "Mother, today I can't even milk a drop of milk from our cow." Jack's mother answered, "I was always afraid of such a day, and finally this calamity happened to us. Jack, my dear boy, it's time to sell our precious cow. Take it to the market and sell it for the highest price you can." Jack looked sad and said, "But mother, without daily milk from the cow, we will soon run out of money. What should we do after this?" The mother replied, "Don't worry, Jack. We will definitely find a way." Jack went to the village with the cow. Before Jack reaches the market, he meets a kind butcher. The butcher was wearing a blue and white striped apron and a straw hat and was carrying a small green bag. The butcher approached Jack. While stroking the cow, he said, "What a fat and nice cow you have, boy." Jack replied, "This is for sale. Do you really want to sell this cow?" Jack said, "Yes. My mother told me to go to the market and sell it only to the highest price, because that cow is very valuable." The butcher replied, "I want to buy it. I'm going to offer the most valuable and best price for this cow. What you won't even see in your dreams." Jack looked at the butcher in surprise and asked, "What is this offer?" The butcher said, "Magic beans." The butcher came forward and opened a small green bag. Jack looked inside the bag. Jack shouted angrily, "This? Just 3 worthless beans?" The butcher replied, "These are not ordinary beans. These beans are magical, and I am sure they will turn your and your mother's life upside down." Jack thought for a moment and said to himself, "Something that is magical and helps my mother." Jack said, "All right." He exchanged a small bag with 3 small beans in it for a cow and returned home. When Jack got home, he told his mother about the butcher and the beans. Suddenly, Jack saw that his mother's face turned pale. She shouted, "What did you do, stupid boy?" Jack stuttered, "But, Mom, the man said they were magic beans. And they help us." Jack suddenly became silent and thought about his words. "It looks ridiculous." He felt ashamed and started crying. He shouted, "Oh, Mom, I'm so sorry. I can't believe I did this stupid thing. Please forgive me." His mother answered, "Go to your room soon, Jack, and think about what you did." Still holding the small beanbag, Jack turned, went upstairs, and closed his bedroom door. He put the beans in his palm, sat on the edge of his bed, and stared at them. He said angrily to himself, "How could I be so ignorant and thoughtless? Did I really sell a cow for 3 beans?" Jack clenched his fist in anger and threw the beans out the window. Then he lay down on his bed and fell into a deep sleep. The next morning, Jack woke up. It was a bright and sunny morning, but the light was not shining through the window into Jack's room as usual. Instead, his room was dark. Jack ran to the window. Suddenly, his breath was stopped by what he saw. A giant beanstalk had grown from the ground to the sky. Jack shouted, "Oh my God! Those beans are really magical. Maybe that butcher was really telling the truth. Maybe we're going to be rich. This is it!" Without thinking, Jack jumped out of his bedroom window and landed on a giant beanstalk. The large leafy stems, like ladders, helped Jack climb up the beanstalk. He began to climb. Higher, higher, and higher, and higher. Jack never stopped to look down. Jack had climbed so high that he could no longer see the hut or their village. Suddenly, a thin voice said, "Jack, is this you?" Jack said, "Yes, it's me." A beautiful little fairy appeared right in front of Jack's nose and started fluttering in the air. The fairy said, "I've been waiting to see you for years. I have to tell you a very important secret." Jack just looked at Fairy in surprise. Fairy continued, "Jack, your father was once a very rich man. Don't you want to know how your father died?" Jack said, "My mother told me that my father got a serious illness and died." Fairy said, "Oh dear Jack, your mother must have wanted to take care of you. Your father was not sick. In the whole land, everyone knew your father, because your father possessed the most amazing creature in history. He owned a hen that laid golden eggs every day." Jack was stunned. He asked, "But then how did my father die?" Fairy raised his arm and pointed to the distance and said, "Look at that castle. Well, in that castle lives a giant who is cruel and brutal. He ate your father and the hen stole his golden egg. You have to take revenge on him and get back your father's assets." And the fairy disappeared without another word. It took a few moments for Jack to compose himself. Then Jack got up and went to the castle. Jack had never seen such a big building in his life. Even the stairs are taller than him. The entrance was as big as a pine tree. Next to the door, there were two very large statues of two stone lions. Jack took a deep breath. Then, without hesitation, he lay flat on the floor and rolled under the door. Jack got up and dusted off his clothes. He looked around. This castle was really big and it amazed Jack. Large carved wooden doors were located in front of Jack, and a carpet that was the size of 2 buses was spread on the floor. Suddenly, the ground started to shake and Jack heard a very loud footsteps. Groomp, groomp, groomp. Suddenly, the door opened and a giant appeared with a golden chicken in his hand. The giant went forward without stopping and opened the kitchen door. Jack crossed the corridor and entered the kitchen as if he was sure that the giant wouldn't see him. The giant shouted, "Where is my dinner?" His wife said, "It will be ready soon, my dear." The giant sat down at the kitchen table and carefully placed the golden chicken in front of him. Jack quickly went behind the table. The giant's wife said while placing a big bowl of delicious stew in front of the giant. "Oh, I wish you hadn't put that animal on the dinner table." The giant stared at her and said loudly, "This is my golden chicken, and every day it should lay golden eggs for me." Suddenly, the giant stopped and slowly looked around. He moved his nose and sniffed and then angrily said, "It smells like a human being. It smells like a human being." His wife said, "You must be delusional, my dear. Since the day you stole that chicken, you haven't eaten any human." The giant shouted, "I'm smelling a man." His wife replied calmly, "My dear, instead of these words, eat your dinner before it gets cold." The giant ate his stew and then laid his head on the table and fell into a deep sleep. Jack thought to himself, "This is it. This is my lucky moment. Jack quickly grabbed the tablecloth and pulled himself up. He did not dare to breathe for fear that the giant would wake up. Jack stepped forward on the table, carefully placed the golden hen under his arm, and ran straight to the window. Jack thought to himself, "Nice! I did this!" But suddenly there was a loud cry from the giant's wife. "Ah, ah, ah, ah! A boy! A boy!" The giant woke up angry at what he had heard and shouted, "Where is it? Where did that man find himself?" His wife shouted, "There!" And he pointed with his hand to Jack, who was now running at a high speed towards the window, and shouted, "Wow, that chicken boy stole your golden egg too." The giant grows towards Jack, but it was too late. Jack had escaped through the open window, down the beanstalk, and into the house. After returning to Earth, Jack cut off the magic beanstalk, and neither the giant nor his wife could touch Jack and his mother. The golden hen, as the fairy had said, laid a golden egg every day. It wasn't long before Jack and his mother earned enough money to live comfortably. They bought a new cow for themselves and lived happily together for years,